creepy and cool TikToks that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
You cannot convince me that this is a coincidence. What do you mean that Lionel Messi did a charity event in 2007 and was matched with a random family that won a UNICEF raffle, and that 6-month-old baby was Lamine Yamal? Lamine Yamal, who came up through La Masia like Messi, who played right wing, was left-footed, wore the number 19 like Messi, and now, 2 decades later, they play each other in a World Cup final? You're expecting me to believe that that's a coincidence. The Finalissima that we never got in 2024, the European champ versus the South American champ, and the baby that Lionel Messi gave a football baptism to is the star player for Spain. And they face each other for the biggest prize in football. This isn't a coincidence. This is cinema, scripted, 20 years in the making.
You know what? They need to make a movie with this insanity. It's amazing.
These spiritual beings, such as Baal and Moloch, which they still do ceremonies for today, such as in Bohemian Grove, there is a giant effigy, stone effigy of an owl. That's the god Moloch. The god Moloch goes all the way back to Rome and Carthage, in which they were offering child sacrifices to this god in exchange for power. And then they will do your bidding, but you end up paying a terrible price for it. You end up losing your soul. And in fact, the groups that work with these entities invariably end up being destroyed, and that is written right into their symbolism, the symbol of the eagle. The original American bird was not the eagle. Benjamin Franklin wanted to be the phoenix. The phoenix is the symbol of the cabal. Why? Because the cabal must be burned to ashes, seems to be completely destroyed, but it keeps arising and reincarnating from the ashes. It comes back. So part of their religious belief is that in order to get their new world order, they must be publicly exposed. They must die for their beliefs. They will appear to be wiped out. And they actually believe that these extraterrestrial gods that they've been contracting with all these centuries are going to return, and they will be glorified. They will return in light bodies, and they will actually now be the rulers of the earth. So this is part of their religious belief.
Wait, do you have any more ghost stories?
When my dad's mom passed away, she was a bigger lady.
Yeah.
Like, she's very big. And like, she would do this thing when she slept. So my dad, he went back home and was staying with her. And then he had called my mom when she passed. And I already had a weird feeling, like weird vibe. But he called, and this is very bad of me. And if they watch this, they're going to know.
Yeah.
But she was just trying to wake me up and tell me my grandma passed. But I was like pretending to be sleeping. Which is very bad.
Oh,
I know.
So you didn't want to like face anything?
Yeah.
You're just trying to be...
She goes to the bathroom to continue talking to my dad. So I like slip away to my room. She doesn't live here. So when she came here, she would sleep in my bed with me. Her and my dad both have this thing. They're both heavy, big people, and they'll put their leg on you when they're sleeping.
Yeah.
Like they can't help it. I went and I just was like, okay, I'm just going to sleep.
Yeah.
And I felt this weird feeling of like, I was like, she's going to visit me. Like, I just know. And you know, when you're like sleeping and you're like half awake, when someone gets on the bed beside you and you can feel
the presence there. Yeah,
their
like someone's
weight.
there. Yeah.
Feeling of like the covers being lifted and the coolness comes in for a bit.
Yeah.
So I felt that feeling. But
Wait, you felt the covers rise?
yeah, that feeling was there of like the cold air that gets into the covers. I felt like, cause she was big, this heavy like presence on my bed, like weight on my bed.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's her. Like she's here. It wasn't a heaviness, but it was like a coolness where she would put her leg on my legs. So I was like, oh, she's here.
Same girl that said Michael Jackson visited her after he died. Oh, by the way, that's a familiar spirit.
Thing is, Disney wants you to believe that mermaids,
It's not your grandma.
are just out there looking for thingamabobs, just looking for their prince, and it's all it's mythology. But really, mermaids, aka sirens, are real, and they are the mothers of demons. Hear me out. Hear me out. I know a lot of you guys already know this, okay? But I'm running it back for the 200,000 new followers that we have over here. There is an ancient text that was taken out of our canon Bible today. I am not saying I read it as scripture. I'm saying I read it as history. I do believe it happened. You guys know in Genesis when there's a flood because the fallen angels ended up mating with the mortal women, creating a ravenous species of giant. The book of Enoch, the book of giants, the book of Jubilees also goes in depth on this whole situation. And those Nephilim aren't just giants like big old friendly giant. No, they are titans and they are bloodthirsty. They consume all of Earth's resources. They consume humans and they also consume each other. At this time, the fallen angels were like doing crazy debauchery. I'm talking about mixing animals and humans, just doing the utmost, teaching humans stuff that we are never supposed to know, like divine knowledge. Now, the women that procreated with these fallen angels, they were after something different. They wanted power. They started to learn how to do things like sync the moon phases with their menstrual cycles. And this is where sacrifice came in. Like the little sacrifice started to come in. I wonder why the people at the top, the elites that pay homage to those fallen angels, still do things like that. I can't get too deep into this. I talk about all this in depth on my podcast, The Deepest Rabbit Hole, on YouTube and Spotify. If y'all want me to send you the LINK, comment down below Enoch. Now, you could be asking, why would you say that they're the mothers of demons? So when the flood happened, right, in the book of Enoch specifically, it says that God cursed those women that procreated with the fallen angels to the sea to become sirens. Now, y'all know we don't know anything about the ocean. Genuinely, we don't know anything about the ocean. So for people to say there's no way sirens exist, to me, you sound more insane saying that there's no way they exist than me saying that I believe they exist. You are a product of the programming that they're putting out there saying, oh, giants and vampires. I'm Christian. I believe vampires exist. And that is for a whole other video. Okay. Not in the way that you think. I think Atlantis exists, but not in the way that you think. Sirens exist, right? But because of The Little Mermaid and all the things we've been seeing since we were literally young, why do you think they make The Little Mermaid a children's movie? They gotta get us while we're young, right? When the flood happened, the Nephilim drowned. I believe becoming disembodied spirits may be part of the marine kingdom. So these sirens, being their mothers, even though they were cursed to the sea, are technically mothers of demons. And like, I really feel like it goes hand in hand. And like, there's a whole other, okay. This video is getting way too long. Like I said, if y'all want the full deep dive, cannot believe y'all have this to almost 80,000 views already on YouTube. Comment the word Enoch. I will send you the LINK. I want y'all to tell me what you think over there on YouTube where we are not censored.
Yeah, man, follow her on YouTube. Her content is awesome.
The United Kingdom is the center of all satanic pedophilia and evil. And the people in the United States that they and the Zionists and others have bribed and blackmailed are part of a United Kingdom Zionist deep state, Rothschild, City of London, Synagogue of Satan, Vatican thing. You know, the deep state's not giving up. They're also planning for Donald Trump's success. I saw Lynn Rothschild's Inclusive Capitalism Conference, in which she had two major pedophiles in the front row, Bill Clinton and Prince Charles. And I said to myself at the time, in fact, I said, this inclusive capitalism idea is a cry from the heart, and it's code for stop the pitchforks. The last thing you want to do is put in front of the public a guy like Klaus Schwab, who looks like a fucking Nazi and talks like a fucking Nazi. This is not the best public relations approach if you want to restore feudalism. The Rothschilds, the deep state, have linked up with the Vatican, and there is now a new inclusive capitalism blessed by the Pope, who is probably a satanic pedophile. Okay? So what we have here is kind of the kinder, gentler Great Reset being formed. And what's fascinating to me is that all of the top people associated with this new inclusive capitalism thing, if I were president, they will all be at Guantanamo under interrogation.
Okay.
This boy, oh my God, you will not believe it. Like, this is 100% true, by the way. Check it out on Google. Oh my God. So this boy claimed he was reincarnated, right? And to prove that he was like, I was murdered. And I know where my body is buried and I know who done it, right? And guess what? He was right. He was dead right. And how was he right? I'm going to tell you right now. So for a couple of years, he was saying to his mum and dad, I was murdered, and my neighbour done it, and he hit me with an axe in the head. And they were just like, oh, he must have been watching some TV show. He's nuts. He's gone off the rails. And he's kept going on about it, kept repeating it. But in the background, there's another guy called Dr. Eli Lash. And he was investigating kids that claimed that they were reincarnated. So he actually flew out to Syria, where this boy was from, in the Golan Heights. And this was in around the early 2000s. And he wanted to investigate it. So the parents obviously were like, okay, maybe there might be some truth to this if he's being investigated. So they started to listen to their son, along with this Dr. Eli Lash. And he's like, okay, tell me what you know about your previous life and stuff. And he was like, well, I was murdered by my neighbour. He hit me with an axe in the head, and I know where my body is, where it's buried, and I know who done it. And they're like, really? Would you know where to go? And he's like, yep. So finally he was being listened to, and they all went down to the location where he said he lived. Now this is mad, right? And as they got to the location, he's like, I'm buried in there, right? And guess who walks out as he's saying that?
Neighbor.
His neighbour that killed him in the previous life. And he's like, and he killed me. And apparently the neighbour went, why? Legged it back into the gaff. And he was like, yeah, and I'm buried there. And judging by the neighbour's reaction, the parents and the Dr. Eli Lash was like, why is he so panicked? So they called the police, right? This is where it gets mad. To dig up where he's saying his body is. And there's a body there, right? And then later on that evening, in questioning, the neighbour admits to killing the man years ago that this little boy claimed to be. Oh my God.
Once again, there are familiar spirits.
This guy asked this girl why women cheat, and her answer was amazing.
Why do women cheat?
Oh my gosh, that is the best question that I've heard all day. Why do you think women cheat? Before I go.
I don't know. I'm asking you.
I'm asking you.
See, that's why we're doing the interview.
Okay. I want to know not only why do women cheat, but why do men cheat? And I will tell you why. It's because people are searching for love and they're looking in the wrong places. And actually, I'm here to tell you that only true love is found in Jesus. Ooh. And no one should cheat on anyone. But the problem is we're all broken and we're all separated from God. But God didn't want that separation, and that's why he sent Jesus to die on the cross for us. And Jesus bridged the gap between you and true love. And you don't have to cheat. No one has to cheat because we have the best love and no one can take it away from us. And so, yeah, if you guys don't have Jesus in your heart, all you have to do is say, Jesus, I ask you to come into my heart, be my Lord, give me this love that I need, make me right, let me know what true love is. And I'm telling you, you'll never be the same. It'll be the best decision of your life. It was for me. That's why I say it. 10 years ago, I was suicidal. I didn't want to live. I didn't have love. I felt cheated of all love. And, you know, I found real love. And that's what I'm here to tell you about today.
Follow for more Kingdom content.
Wow. She's a keeper.
How does China get away with putting a giant slide through the middle of a 3 million year old cave? Well, I don't know, but I love it. This is the Xingwen Stone Sea and Caves. This cave spans a whopping 10 kilometers, making it the longest accessible cave in China, which could be why they put a giant slide in there. But this place is absolutely insane. It actually used to sit on the bottom of the ocean floor hundreds of millions of years ago, which left these alien-looking stone waves on the surface. Not only can you slide through the middle for just $3, but you can explore the rest of the cave, which somehow looks like the surface of another planet. And China just knows how to make everything look epic. Like, this is a massive rock that just collapsed. It even has an underground lake where you can take a boat ride to the exit. But what I really want to know is, y'all sliding through this cave?
Nothing to see here, guys. Just FIFA president and Howard Lutnick, one of Jeffrey Epstein's best friends, hanging out watching the USA game last night. In case you needed further proof that all sports are bred in circuses to the Epstein class, here he is at the NBA Finals game next to DJ Calorie and Sloppy Joe. People have said that this Epstein email is fake about NBA scripts, but keep in mind, this email was found and came out before the New York Knicks won the NBA championship, and it lists all the other ones correctly as well. Regardless of what you believe, this is guilt by association. Pedos hang out with other pedos. Let's wake up.
The most convincing
evidence of time travel?
Silas Orvin. He actually recently predicted the exact start date of the recent war, and he did that back in August. The most mind-blowing thing about this entire thing is he claims to be a time traveller, that he's come from the future to warn humanity about future upcoming events. People were laughing at him back then, but they're certainly not laughing now. I did actually read his recent book. It's called The Hidden Simulation. I've never read anything like it in my life. I can't put it down. It's the most insane story I've ever read.
That's crazy. What was it called again?
The Hidden Simulation.
I'm going to have to check that out. Thank you.
You are going to want to watch this video in full. This is CCTV footage coming out of Europe, and at first glance, it captures what appears to be a car speeding down the street. But oh, there's so much more to this video. It's truly paranormal. But when you zoom in, you quickly realize this isn't a shadow or an insect or even an animal. This appears to be a paranormal being chasing that car, but it's going so fast. I have slowed down the video for you. This is wild.
Man.
Comment below. Let us know what you think this could have been
Spider-Man,
or what
Spider-Man.
this could have been.
Fish. Whoa.
Come to find out, the story keeps getting gooder. Gerald is a dolphin. He's the leader of a pod of dolphins. Very true, but I'm going to say alleged. A Florida man was kidnapped by said dolphins, and he was drugged underwater 40 feet for 3 days. He had to build them an underwater city. They let him up. He went to the doctor. They found marine particles in his lungs, suggesting that he, in fact, was 40 feet underwater. He had nothing in his system. He was of sound body and mind. After that, 40 dolphins washed ashore. After the story about Gerald came out, you see the Coast Guard, the FBI, and everybody else on the beach where said dolphins washed ashore, actively looking for dolphins. They searching for something. Why is it illegal to talk to dolphins? There were so many questions after this Gerald story came out. We're ready for the update. 36 armed dolphins trained by the U.S. Navy to kill terrorists have been missing since 2005. Following Hurricane Katrina, 36 U.S. Navy trained dolphins potentially armed with toxic dart guns went missing from a Mississippi coast facility. Don't that sound like a dolphin that had to kidnap a human, create an air pocket for him, know what to do? Nothing was ever confirmed, no recovery, no clear explanation, just silence from the Navy. Capable of identifying spies and carrying toxic dart guns, incapacitated divers were released when their coastal compound was breached. While the U.S. Navy's Marine Mammal Program does train dolphins to detect mines and protect ships, they are typically not trained for killer or attack roles. Typically, everybody here knows the government lies to us. Can't tell you, you panic. I'll never let you forget how you acted about toilet tissue during that crisis. And Gerald was one of the dolphins that escaped. I just know that pod of dolphins have been trained and equipped with all of the things that they've learned from the U.S. Navy. I'm like, why would the FBI, the CIA, the Coast Guard be out there? Why? These are the dolphins that escaped. They're looking for them, and they're trying to figure out why they have been exposed. Get to the bottom of it, too, and they don't want anyone else to discover it. She was in the Navy. She was like, yeah, we do have dolphins that we train. They ride along beside the ship with us. Doesn't that sound like somebody old in the Navy? We're going to call him Gerald. Don't that sound like? Gerald was a Navy SEAL dolphin who escaped during Hurricane Katrina, and he ends up having children. And the whole next pod, whole next generation after him has been taught Navy SEAL stuff. And now they're trying to find the whole pod. They're trying to find Gerald because they know how dangerous he is. And they know that his children are probably equally as dangerous. And I believe the 20 or 40 dolphins that have washed ashore sacrificed themselves for Gerald because they're not letting Gerald get caught. Don't that make sense now? That Gerald ain't just no regular ass dolphin. I'm so offended that they try to think me stupid and slow. Yes, that happened.
The concept was simple. Take one teenager from a rich city family and take another teenager from a poor rural village. Swap their lives for 7 days and see what happens. And eventually people realize that they've been watching the most evil and manipulative show in all of China. On one side, you had the rich spoiled city kid, Shin. And on the other, the poor rural kid, Wang. Let's start with Shin first, because this guy was known as the most difficult protagonist to change in the history of metamorphosis. He constantly smoked, partied, and went clubbing. Whenever he ran out of money, he would just sneak into his mother's meetings when she was busy and just steal cash from her bag. He would also constantly threaten to sell one of his kidneys if his mother didn't give him money. Usually it's the parents who send the kids to the show, but Shin volunteered for it. If I go on this show, won't I become a celebrity? And this slowly foreshadowed how he approached the swap. Meanwhile, the girl he was swapping with, Wang, she lived in a tiny house made of mud in Shaanxi province, and her parents divorced very early on when she was only 3. And instead of growing up with them, she lived with their 70-year-old grandmother and her paralyzed uncle. But Wang was incredibly smart and hardworking. She did all the chores by herself, cooked meals, washed clothes, and even looked after her paralyzed uncle. But first, let's go back to Shin's side of the swap, because right when he arrived at the village where Wang lived, her family treated him like an absolute gem. Then after just a few hours, he immediately went to the director and said, "Can we stop filming?" I mean, he was trying to escape and literally fell off the hill and almost obliterated the grandma too. And what happened next is where things started getting really weird, because the production team decided to just take matters into their own hands. Multiple crew members surrounded him and started threatening him. They kept saying things like, "You'll die surrounded by these mountains." Then when it was time to eat, they told him he wasn't allowed to have any food because he wasn't behaving. And if he did start eating, they would either lock him in the cabin or just take the car and leave.
While filming the mountains of the Himalayas, a cameraman notices a long line of silhouettes moving through the snow in the distance, without realizing he is about to capture a real execution on camera. At first, the scene almost feels unreal. Men, women, and even children are slowly walking through the freezing cold at more than 5,000 meters above sea level. They are Tibetans trying to secretly escape their country. Since China took control of Tibet, leaving the territory without permission has been considered a crime, and many people risk their lives trying to reach India. But this group has just been spotted. Several hundred meters away, a Chinese border guard gets into position and aims his weapon. The cameraman keeps filming, at first believing he is only witnessing an arrest. Then a gunshot echoes through the mountains. The man at the front of the line suddenly collapses into the snow. For a few seconds, nobody fully understands what just happened. Somehow, he manages to stand back up injured while the group keeps moving in panic. But moments later, a second shot rings out. This time, a figure near the back of the line falls immediately, shocked by what he is witnessing. The cameraman says a sentence that would later become famous. "They're shooting them like dogs." The person who had just fallen was named Kelsang Namso, a 17-year-old Tibetan nun. And what makes this footage even more disturbing is that it became one of the first recorded pieces of evidence showing unarmed civilians being shot while simply trying to flee their country.
This is actually disturbing. Watch this.
This is called Subsoccer. I've been watching it nearly every day for weeks. Not because it's thrilling, it's not, but because of this guy with the orange shoes. He played in a game on April 3rd, then another the next morning, and another right after that. While he scored dozens of goals, I never once saw him celebrate, because he's not playing to win. Neither are these people playing cricket, basketball, volleyball, water polo, tennis, and table tennis. 5-on-5, 4-on-4, 3-on-3, and 2-on-2 soccer. These so-called frostball players aren't playing to win, nor are the guys playing whatever you call this. They're playing on fake teams with familiar names, in anonymous buildings without spectators, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, solely to give people like you and me something to gamble on. These are sports betting farms.
We're at the point in society where sports betting and gambling has started to permeate back into the real world, to where now people are creating real world things to be doing based off of the demand that there is for placing bets online. And this didn't come out of nowhere. This is something that has been developing for many years. These are the types of things that you see when society is on the verge of complete and utter collapse. People have nothing else to do with their time and their money than to gamble. And this isn't because that they're doing well. No, this is because people are desperate. They're trying to find a way out of their situation. And these are the links at which they're going to, not only as the people participating in the sports, but also the people obviously who are sitting back and betting on this as a way to try to make money, when in reality, these platforms are all set up to extract all of that money that they have left away. This is not going away. This is going to get bigger and bigger, and that is exactly why we created No Dice, to serve as a community and a place where we can create a counter force against all of this manipulation that's being done, especially to young men and young people who are just trying to find a way to survive. This is not the way out, and we have to make that clear so that more and more people don't get harmed as this industry continues to grow. Like this post and follow us to join us as we continue to speak out against big gambling and the harms that are being done. We're still early enough in this to have a say in how this industry continues to develop moving forward.
The weirdest animals ancient humans encountered, Iceberg. All right, first up we have the giant ground sloth. When ancient humans entered the Americas, they encountered giant ground sloths. There were actually over 100 different species, and some were as large as elephants. Many species had massive claws to defend themselves, and tiny bones embedded in their skin that served as armor. This is actually real giant ground sloth skin that was mummified in a cave. They were extremely weird creatures, and evidence suggests that humans hunted them to some extent. But now we're moving on to an even weirder creature, Thylacoleo. It's also known as the marsupial lion. It was the apex predator of Australia, and part of what makes it so weird are its teeth. You see, they actually evolved from herbivores, so they didn't have big canines. So instead they grew these massive incisors which served as their killing tools. And it makes them almost look like saber-toothed cats. And they had these large claws which helped them climb trees, so they may have functioned like a marsupial leopard. But moving on, we have a much weirder creature, the Glyptodont. They were giant armadillos with a hard shell and the size of a car. And the craziest species was Doedicurus. They had these massive tail clubs for defense that were as powerful as a catapult. And the ends of their tails were absolutely insane. They had these giant claws that would just tear you apart. But moving on, we have the heaviest bird that ever lived. The elephant bird was over 2,000 pounds and over 10 feet tall. They were native to Madagascar and only went extinct around 1,000 years ago, meaning they survived more recently than the Western Roman Empire. But humans would quickly hunt them to extinction. Look at that motherfucking egg, bruh. But now we're moving on to Gigantopithecus. Though their remains are fragmentary, they were probably twice as large as a modern gorilla. They would have dwarfed the Homo erectus that came across them, and it's even possible that our species saw them. They probably looked more like orangutans than some giant Bigfoot, and they probably walked on all fours due to their size. But they must have been an insane animal to see in real life. Now we're moving on to the giant owl. This animal lived in Cuba during the Ice Age and was over 3.5 feet tall and 66 pounds. And due to its immense size, it was flightless, but it would stalk its prey and ambush it with its talons. Seeing such a massive bird would have been terrifying. It is believed that they went extinct around 6,000 to 8,000 years ago, but the native Taino people had stories of giant owls. It really could be the scariest animal on this list. But now we're moving on to Hexaprotodon. This animal was a giant toothy hippopotamus. They had 6 incisors at the front of their mouth, and they coexisted with Neanderthals and early humans across Eurasia. Hippopotamus are the deadliest animals in Africa in the modern day, and they must have been extremely deadly back in the day as well. But now we're moving on to the weirdest animal on this list, Paradolichopithecus. Paradolichopithecus was an extremely weird and large monkey from Europe and Asia. Their feet looked just like early human ancestors, suggesting they spent a lot of time walking upright. But it got even weirder when scientists looked at their arms. Their morphology suggests that they were used for holding and grabbing things, suggesting they may have been holding things while walking bipedally. Altogether, it seems like they were on a similar evolutionary path to our own. But unfortunately, they would go extinct around 1 million years ago, so only Homo erectus would have saw them. But it's just so weird to imagine that if our ancestors went extinct, another lineage could have picked up the slack and been where we are right now. If you want to learn more, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Northo2, and check out all my cool videos, bruh.
If you thought a goldfish was low maintenance, these things don't even care if the water disappears for a while. This is an Asian swamp eel, and despite the name, it's not an eel at all. It's a freshwater fish with a long snake-like body. The reason they're kept as pets is because they can become surprisingly tame. They'll actually learn their feeding routine and even recognize the person who feeds them. They're also incredibly hardy. Unlike most fish, they can breathe through their skin. So as you can see, they don't rely on highly oxygenated water to survive. And if they accidentally hop out of the water, as long as they stay moist, they can survive for several days. In the wild, they'll even slither across land to find a new pond or ditch.
What?
The more you know.
I heard enough. Release 10,000 into Florida. I'm just kidding. Oh, man.
Okay. The mantis shrimp is one of the most dangerous little creatures in the ocean. They may look colorful, almost something painted by nature, but do not let that beauty fool you. This animal has one of the fastest attacks ever recorded in the animal kingdom. Some mantis shrimp punch with club-like arms so fast the strike can move around 50 miles underwater per hour. That is so fast it creates a shock wave. If the punch misses, the collapsing bubble from the strike can still damage the prey. That means the mantis shrimp does not just hit you once. It hits you with the punch and the force behind the punch. Its strike can crack shells, break crab armor, smash snails, and even damage aquarium glass.
What?
Scientists have studied this creature because its punch is like a natural weapon system. The crazy part is its body is only a few inches long, but it hits with power way beyond its size. Its eyes are just as wild. The mantis shrimp can see colors humans cannot even imagine. While some humans have 3 color receptors, some mantis shrimp have up to 16. This animal is fast, powerful, and sees the world in a way we cannot fully understand. This displays the glory of God.
Amen. We call him One Punch Shrimp.
What would you do if I told you you could spend a night rescuing baby puffins in Iceland? Because you can, and this is how it works. Off Iceland's south coast, there is a little island that is home to the largest puffin colony on Earth. 1 in 5 of the world's puffins nest here. Every August, the babies, which are called pufflings, leave their burrow at night for the very first time and use the moon to guide them to the sea. The problem is the town's streetlights look like the moon, so hundreds of confused pufflings crash land into the streets. So the whole town mobilizes. Kids stay up past midnight with torches and cardboard boxes to catch the pufflings before the cats get to them, and visitors are welcome to join in. The next morning, every puffling gets weighed and tagged by the aquarium and then gets released by being gently thrown off a cliff into the sea. That is the official technique. These patrols save thousands of pufflings every single season. The season only runs for a few weeks from late August. So book a night on the island, grab a box, and become a puffin bodyguard. Now, I don't want you to forget about this place, so send this video to the app my friends and I made, which will scan the post and pin this location onto a map automatically, and that works for any TikTok or Reel. And if you're wondering where this is, it's Heimei in the Westman Islands off Iceland.
So this is a wild book to look into. Do you know all the earthquakes? Nikola Tesla Earthquake Machine with the original Tesla patents and new blueprints to build your own working model by Dale Pond. Yes, that's where the earthquakes came from. Earth waves. And it says right here, an oscillator small enough to put into a pocket caused a small earthquake in Tesla's lab in New York in 1888. It drew a lot of attention, people got scared, and it only took 5 pounds of pressure to topple the Empire State Building. A larger machine can do even bigger things. And then let's think about 9/11, right? Everybody knows about 9/11. And, yeah, imagine if you attach one of those right to it. Something to kind of think about.
This man killed his victims so he could drink their blood and eat their bodies. He was given the name the Vampire of Sacramento.
What?
This is Richard Trenton Chase, and growing up he exhibited a lot of psychopathic behaviors such as cruelty to animals and fire setting. Richard lived with his parents into his 20s, and they recalled him always sitting in his room, and they would hear him talking to himself saying things like, "Richard, are you a good boy?" and then him responding to himself, "Yes, I am a good boy." He was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic and hospitalized due to that and his extreme addiction issues. 2 years later, he relapsed and lost all bearing on reality. In 1978, he walked into Teresa Wallen's house, shot her, mutilated her body completely, and then used a yogurt container to drink her blood.
What?
This man was so convinced he was a vampire, he wouldn't go into people's houses if they had the doors locked. He would take it as a sign he wasn't invited. He would only go after people who had unlocked doors. He had 6 victims in all, where he would do extreme mutilation, drink their blood, cannibalize parts of them, and then other things that I just can't talk about. After he was arrested, he told detectives he had to do it because he had blood poisoning and he needed the blood. The trial was completely crazy, but the jury did find that he was sane during all the attacks and they sentenced him to death. He was housed in San Quentin, but in 1980 was found dead in his cell due to an OD.
So every time Jennifer made money from doing an eating stream, the money almost immediately went straight back into another cosmetic procedure. She would lose weight with surgery, then go right back into live streaming giant mukbangs. Then after gaining the weight, she would go back for another surgery to lose the weight. And it became this endless loop where body liposuction was keeping her body to match her face. It's honestly kind of terrifying when you think about it. And Yes, nobody has ever tried this before. This is the whole reason why Jennifer is even doing this. Eventually, her weight rebounded for the 5th time, and this time, thankfully, the doctors refused. They basically said Jennifer's body couldn't handle another operation. And the screenshots of Jennifer's messages with the hospital also started spreading everywhere online. Apparently, doctors didn't even let her leave the hospital because her stomach started rotting. At this point, Jennifer realized that the female persona that originally started this entire journey and is what made her famous has completely consumed her life now. Because there was one last thing that she needed to do to complete her transformation, and that was undergoing gender reassignment surgery and voice changing surgery. This was the final thing that she had done to completely transform her identity and to get that last viral headline, and it was really also the last thing she could do. And yeah, it's clear that she's gone to a point of no return, and these unnatural features are completely permanent now. Because she exploded online after this, and is now pretty much known as one of the top influencers who did everything they could to reinvent themselves for fame. Today, Jennifer is still uploading videos talking about her daily life, and people also call her the legendary longevity queen of Douyin.
One of the craziest things just happened on Mount Everest, and no one is talking about it. But a Sherpa was just left to die on the mountain after guiding 2 international clients to the top. And the way the story unfolded is really making people question the ethics of climbing the mountain. I'm Kayla and I have a dark curiosity, so follow along for the rabbit holes I go down. But a 52-year-old Sherpa named Hilary Dawa Sherpa had just helped his Polish client summit Mount Everest. They were coming down the mountain with another Sherpa and his client from the UK when all of a sudden the Polish client started running out of oxygen. At some point during the descent, it seems like Hilary Dawa Sherpa sat down for a moment to catch his breath and got separated from the group. But here's the thing, no search parties were sent out after it was reported he was missing the next day. His family had to beg the company he was climbing with to get a search party started, and even that took days. And mind you, this was like the last day of the climbing season, so all of the routes were going to be closed after this, so it was do or die. Finally, after days, a search party was launched. It turned up no trace of him. I mean, obviously, it's very, very hard to survive for multiple days on Everest without the proper supplies. But just as his family was starting to prepare his funeral, Hilary Dawa Sherpa was seen crawling down the mountain 6 days later. This man had no food or water on him. He survived by melting ice in his mouth and eating chocolates he had found in his pockets. But his story brings up a really interesting conversation about climbing Mount Everest, especially when it comes to Sherpas, and it's something I talk about in this week's episode of the Heart Starts Pounding podcast. I tell the story of the Khumbu Icefall avalanche, which was the deadliest day for Sherpas in Mount Everest history. A bunch of Sherpas were fixing a ladder for their clients when all of a sudden the avalanche hit. You can listen to it wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And if you're interested in the ethics of climbing the mountain and the role the Sherpas play, I really think you should listen to it.
This crab literally walks around with pom-poms. And if it loses one, it makes a new one.
Man.
Meet the pom-pom crab.
This crab looks fabulous.
A tiny ocean cheerleader with 2 living grenades. Those fluffy pom-poms aren't decorations. They're actually venomous sea anemones.
Ooh.
When predators get too close, it starts waving them around. And here's where it gets absolutely insane. If one anemone dies or falls off, the crab literally tears the remaining one in half. Each half grows into a brand new anemone. To eat, it just steals crumbs while still holding them. Imagine eating a burger while doing dumbbell curls. Forever. If it can't find anemones, it grabs sponge, coral, even trash. So next time someone says crabs are boring, remember, there's one out there shadowboxing with venomous pom-poms like it's the heavyweight champion of the reef. Nature seriously needs to chill.
If black people ruled Europe, how do we fall?
So everyone's asking, if we had so much power and we ruled over Europe, how did we fall? Was it Christianity? Was it white women? Was it the wild men?
Women?
All of these things contributed to our demise. First, let's address Christianity. This is my first source, Birth of the Middle Ages. And I quote, iconoclasts whitewashing the image of Christ. This is called iconoclasm. They started to erase black images of Christ during the Byzantine period. This is my next source, the Russian icon. Look at this image of Christ. They painted him black. This is my next source, the Russian icon. Look at this image of Christ and Mary. They're both black. This is my next source, the Oxford Illustrated History of Medieval Europe. Look at this man. His name is Moses Sephardi, and he's being converted to Christianity. Now look at the whitewashed image of Jesus at the top. Now another way that they converted the Moors was through forced Christianity, which was called the Inquisition. What they would do is they would have masked men called the Nazareno who wore the caparot. They would take us up and they would torture us, and they would put us on crosses or stakes and set us on fire. This is called the auto de fe, the act of faith. They did the same thing in America, but they were called the Ku Klux Klan. Now let's go to white women. When we were ruling as the Moors, we had a lot of slaves, and some of the slaves we ended up marrying, and we had children with them. And this would rub Caucasian men the wrong way. And this is why Shakespeare's Othello did so well, because it captured the true raw emotion at that time period. This is my next source, the image of the black in the Western art. This is us after we fell out of power. This black man is either a slave or a servant, and he's being commanded to lay down with this woman's daughter-in-law. And this woman goes to get her son, and she accuses this black man for laying down with her daughter-in-law. So they arrest this black man, and then they burn him at the stake. But they told the woman that Mary and Jesus forgave her because she was Caucasian.
What?
Napoleon Bonaparte said about Jesus is crazy. Listen to this. So he said that I know man, and I tell you, Jesus Christ was not a man. Superficial minds see a resemblance between Christ and that of the founders of empires and the gods of other religions. That resemblance does not exist. There is between Christianity and other religions the distance of infinity. Alexander, Caesar, Charlemagne, and myself founded empires. But on what did we rest the creations of our genius? Upon sheer force. Jesus Christ alone founded his empire on love, and that this hour millions of men would die for him. In every other existence but that of Christ, how many imperfections. From the first day to his last, he is the same, majestic and simple, infinitely firm and infinitely gentle. He proposes to our faith a series of mysteries and commands with authority that we should believe them, given no other reason than the tremendous words, I am God.
Christ is gay.
In it. They put sodium bicarbonate in it for a reason, because sodium bicarbonate is an inorganic salt that will make things appear to be alkaline. And all it takes is a little bit of baking soda. A little bit of baking soda. A little bit of baking soda. Whoa. A little bit of baking soda. And you see that color start to change?
Oh. Wow.
That color started to turn that blue again. Because they just took it and they just manipulated it through a chemical process. Our water is made through an electrical process. Their water is made through a chemical process.
Oh.
So you could take radioactive water and make it alkaline with this, but I wouldn't suggest you drink it.
Oh, okay.
Baking soda actually good for your body.
Have you seen that video where that penguin randomly gets to call the void and just waddles away from everything he knows to certain death? So penguins have feeding grounds by the sea and breeding grounds, which is the colony. This penguin went off script and went straight to the mountains, 70 kilometers away, by himself. There's nothing for him over there, nothing but a certain sweet release, and we still have no idea why. But I have theories. Penguins smell unfathomably offensive, and because it's so cold, their poop doesn't decompose nearly as fast. So not only do they make the area code smell like an avian outhouse, they pile up so much you can see the brown mounds from space. You might be wondering how they keep their nests clean. That's how, and from the multiple money shots, that's a habitual victim. Not to mention, penguins will cheat on each other, with some species having a fidelity rate of 15%, which means there's an 85% chance you come home to your wife to someone arriving in her. Also, penguins that lose their chick will often attempt to kidnap someone else's, but once the penguin parental urge passes, they leave that same chick to die. So I wouldn't blame a penguin for seeing all that and choosing whatever this is. On a serious note, I have no idea why they do this, and it's not like it's a one-time thing. This isn't AI. That's an emperor penguin that swam 2,000 miles in the wrong direction and ended up in Australia. That's like doing 44,000 laps in an Olympic-sized pool just following vibes. Scientists say maybe he got disoriented or a storm blew him off course. Maybe he's sick or tired or sick of being tired. Or maybe the same call of the void that allegedly sends divers to the abyss never to return sends penguins waddling into the oblivion, because despite condemning himself to death for a brief moment, he's free. There's a lesson here, and I'm not the one to teach it. The more you know.
2 footballing icons named in the Epstein files. One of them still playing and one retired, and we all knew he was dodgy. Now have a look at this and let me know what you think, but this is unbelievable. Wow. Right now, this man I'm about to reveal was mentioned 9 times in the Jeffrey Epstein files. Now, I'm not saying there's no wrongdoing, but there's no smoke without fire. Let me introduce you to Lionel Messi. 9 times he was mentioned in the Epstein files. Now let's have a look at the next dirty dog. Now I'm telling you now, I've always known this guy was a puppet, a sellout, a phony.
Messi is a FIFA princess.
David Beckham. David Beckham was mentioned 9 times in the Jeffrey Epstein files. Now, like I said, it doesn't mean guilt, but we know what it means, don't we? Now, we all remember that story from 20 years ago. His maid, Rebecca Lewis. If you don't know, do your research. Don't worry, guys, I've got you covered. Here are all the sporting people mentioned in Jeffrey Epstein's files. Lionel Messi, footballer. Sachin Tendulkar, cricketer. Tiger Woods, standard. Of course he was going to be there. Michael Jordan, goes without saying. And last but not least, Sir David Beckham. Sir, that needs to go, that.
Celebrities. God, they were the worst. Because they thought their fame made them invincible. Take Tom Hanks. Big name, A-lister, the kind who wins awards for playing heroes on screen. But at the ranch, he was a freak, always making these jokes that weren't funny at all. These awkward deadpan quips that hung in the air like poison. He'd say something like, "Why did the chicken cross the road?" To escape the experiments. And then just stare at you. One night stands out, haunts me every time I close my eyes. Hank shows up, eyes wild, demanding something special. He fixates on this girl, a disabled slave. They called her that bluntly, like she was property. He had his way with her first, in one of the guest cabins, while the rest of us were locked away. But that wasn't enough. Afterward, he dragged her down to the labs, tools in hand. I overheard him later, bragging to Epstein. I wanted to understand what Joseph Mendele felt, the angel of death, dissecting science, for curiosity. He dismembered her right there, methodically, like it was art. Blood everywhere, her screams echoing through the vents. When he was done, they hauled what was left to the barn out back.
Of course, isn't he hiding in Greece?
Sperm whales could melt you.
Ooh.
They could liquefy your insides with their sonar. Picture this. A sperm whale decides to hunt you like you were a giant squid. They'd hit you point blank range with over 240 decibels of the loudest, most concussive sound, and they would liquefy your soft tissue, rupture your eardrums, and give you internal bleeding. They can communicate from thousands of miles away from each other because of this giant organ that makes up a third of their body called the spermaceti. Inside the spermaceti is another little, I don't know, oblong, large-ish organ that is this waxy substance that they can heat up or cool down at will, and view it as like a magnifying glass or a telescope. They can either go really, 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 tight in or really, really spread out. And they can literally punch you with sonar, punch a giant squid that they're hunting and immobilize it, or they can use it to go way far out. It's a true sonar cannon. These things exist at a depth that would instantly crush you. They just spend all of their time at a depth in the ocean that would immediately crush you. They're one of God's coolest critters, and I cannot believe that they're not talked about more.
They are really cool, but their marketing department should do something about the name, though. Spermaceti.
Also, if you hear your name called in the woods at night, your full name spoken clearly in a voice you almost recognize, but it's not quite right, do not answer. Do not go toward it. Do not call back. This is not merely a matter of caution about strangers. It is the specific mechanism by which several categories of malevolent Appalachian entities are believed to operate. The Raven Mocker, a fearsome entity in Cherokee belief, is a witch spirit in the shape of an old man or woman who steals the years from the dying, was said to call the names of its intended victims before coming for them. To answer was to confirm your location and, in some tellings, to surrender some essential part of yourself, your name. In many traditions, being not merely a label, but a piece of your soul. Wow. European settlers brought their own version of this belief that the devil and his servants would call your name from the dark at a crossroads or a hollow, and to respond was to begin a transaction that you could not finish on favorable terms. Mountain parents warn their children about this specifically. If you hear your name in the trees and no one steps into the light to show you themselves, put your back to the nearest wall or tree and then later walk home without speaking back.
When police executed a search warrant on the 2 Washington, D.C. properties owned by the Finders cult after a child abuse incident in Tallahassee, what they found was extremely concerning. At their warehouse property, they found large plastic bags full of photographs, and some of the photos were of naked children and children engaged in what looked to be occult rituals involving the slaughter of a goat and men wearing white robes standing around them. Police also found out that they had a farm in Virginia owned by a man named George Marion Petty, who turned out to be the leader of this cult. And they also called this guy the Game Caller. So Virginia State Police looked into that area as well. And neighbors said that they had often seen children being brought to the farm in vans. And even though they thought this was suspicious, they never called the police. Police said that they didn't believe these children had been kidnapped, but that their parents had voluntarily given them away to this group to gain access to this organization. And even though all this information was extremely suspicious, they never found any evidence of illegal activity. And the narrative that the media ended up taking on this was just that the Finders were this very strange group, but they weren't technically doing anything wrong. And even though all this information was extremely creepy and strange on its own, the mystery got even deeper when people started realizing that 2 of the members of the Finders actually worked for the CIA. Follow for part 3.
Everybody is obviously convinced that the world is falling apart, so this is a list of genuinely good news from all around the world that's actually real and nobody's covering. Italy just voted for every single animal to get out of circuses and traveling shows, and every single one of them is getting rehomed into a real sanctuary instead. Scotland just made it an actual law that period products are free, so you can walk into any school, college, or public building there and you can grab whatever you need without any questions asked. In Canada, they have dog buses now. Okay. They're saying that a service literally pulls up to your house, grabs your dog, and takes them out for an entire day of hikes and adventures while you're at work. In Seoul, if you're a woman walking home late at night, you can request a team that meets you right at the subway stop and walks you all the way to your front door. They actually started this just so people could actually feel safe whenever getting home. In Germany, instead of just sitting in a cell, people in prison can now officially train for real trade like cook, carpenter, or mechanic so they can walk out with an actual job skill. None of this even made the news, like it never does, next to all the bad stuff we see every day.
I'm getting whistleblowers on the inside saying that they're taking all that waste and they're just running it down into the sewers. They're wanting to go to more closed cooling systems, and in those closed cooling systems, you still are going to be using chemicals. There's no regulations about every 2 years when you have to clean out a cooling closed system, where you're going to throw all of those chemicals. My dad's a mechanical engineer, and he used to always tell me, remember this, Aaron, the solution to pollution is not dilution. And I often wonder if that's what they think. Taking polluted water and running it through a system and dumping it into a river and it flows downstream, that will have a natural dilution would resolve the issue. And it's not. Even if with the closed cooling system, that water that's recycling in there, eventually they have to clean those systems. They have to release that water. And are there any regulations to look at what chemicals aren't in that water before we release it into the environment and just create another pollution issue? Right now, it's a free-for-all out there.
See what those say? It says pyramids and ziggurats. Yeah. How many words do you know sound like ziggurat? Only one. Only one. Cigarette. Isn't that fascinating? Interesting. Now look at that. Those pyramids and those ziggurats are where they were sacrificing people. Wow. That's a human sacrificial portal. Look at all the cigarette companies, bro. Why do you think the old Marlboro logo emphasizes the A? See the pyramid? Wow. That's what they are doing. It's killed a human, sacrifice their blood at the top of the ziggurat or the pyramid, drain drain the blood, offer it to the demon god, eat the flesh on the bottom left, and then the bottom right, gain sacred knowledge.
Wow.
That's what that is. See the roly paper right there? What is that called? Why do you think they call it that? That's the roly paper that you roll cigarettes and weed in. It's called zigzag paper.
Wow.
Zigzag because of the ziggurat. That's where we get the word ziggurat. And then look, skull. And then pyramid. Look, scroll over. It says pyramid. Look, Kingston, pyramid. Salem is Jerusalem. Whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Petra is also a place where there's structures. Cool is the ancient derivation for ghoul. Keep going over. Misty are the mystics that ran the pyramids.
Wow.
Corso, again, pyramid. Go down. You can see this one. Black, again, pyramid. Kingston, Parliament, pyramid.
Black is an Indonesian cigarette. Jarum.
They're all pyramids.
Yeah.
Scroll up. Look at that. It ain't about the camel, bro. It's about the pyramids in the background.
Wow. Yeah, I see that right here.
Look at the Marlboro logo. The pack even opens up the top of the pack and you lift off the top of the pyramid just to show the uncompleted Tower of Babel.
So then are cigarettes basically like a mass human sacrifice ritual?
Yes, absolutely.
Interesting.
If you're smoking cigarettes, you're a burned offering.
But there is natural tobacco grown all around the world without chemicals and additives.
Trump in a coffin? Well, that's next on the trumpet. That billboard was as big as a building. They have not destroyed the billboard factories. Plus, this guy right here, he's going to have a gold coffin. They got that part wrong. Gold coffin. When the Hebrew people left Egypt, they had a gold coffin. They had Joseph's coffin, and it's the same word as the Ark of the Covenant. And when Moses split the Red Sea, it was Joseph's golden box that went right through the middle of it. They were all gold-plated wooden boxes.
Hey, man, that's
how they treated the dead. This coffin right here on top of this dragon, that's one of the popes. That is very holy. Those two rockets right there, those are peace rockets. Rest in peace rockets. Dude, do the whole building. Oh, I love it. What are they doing? That's like stirring the pot with your head. You know what the first thing the book of Enoch says right there? It's right there. The great tribulation when all the wicked will be removed and brought to judgment. I wonder if he's going to talk about that open black coffin tonight. Go by Ezekiel 33:3. And that scripture says that when I see the sword fall upon the land, I blow the trumpet and warn the people so I can follow the trumpet for more. And in Jesus' name, have a blessed day.
Would you like to deal with? Would you like to deal with 28 Days Later? They were rabid. Yeah. So they were the fast ones. Yeah. Nah. Then you've got the obviously Resident Evil ones. And then you have one that I've never fucking seen. Ooh. World War Z. And they were fast.
Yeah. They were fast too.
But literally, I saw this one YouTuber that actually was showing camera footage of people that were just acting crazy. Like, okay, you remember Shaun of the Dead, like where he didn't notice anybody was zombies?
Right. Yeah. That's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, it is. Me too.
Shaun of the Dead's classic.
But literally it was that. It was Shaun of the Dead because he was showing this one guy that was in a basketball court and the zombie and he was just screaming and he was like, the fuck, look at this dude. But he was literally doing the same shit. Like this other person was, I believe they looked like they were in a casino, aka Vegas. But literally they were doing the same thing. And then there was another one. Like it looked like Shaun of the Dead zombies. So we good. But
I'll deal with those any day. Any running zombies? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
That's going to be a no for me. Yeah.
That's going to be a no for me,
dog. That changes the game altogether. And for those reasons, I'm out.
But I'm saying like this YouTuber was showing these clips and he was like, okay, so now we've gone from aliens to wars to now we have zombie apocalypse. And he showed so many clips of it and these were different people.
But you know, the CDC actually put out a preparedness guidebook, like a survival for a zombie apocalypse. Look at this. It's on the site. So let me pull it up so everybody don't think it's capped. Look, it's a humorous approach to emphasize the importance of emergency preparedness. What is funny about any of this?
Nothing.
CDC. Y'all playing games. Look, so you can type this in, CDC zombie preparedness. Look what comes up. Preparedness 101. Why do they have this?
Why?
This is on the site. Zombie pandemic.
Dude.
Come on.
Come on.
Crazy wording. It's crazy work. Various words. So you're talking about the Center for Disease Control has a zombie preparedness book. This is why I have my book.
This is why I have my book.
And mine's serious. Like, I'm like, okay, here's how to do this. Here's X, Y, and Z. Actual, solutions. Yeah, but this is literally on their site. Why do they have that?
Why do they have that?
Why they have that? Well, it's duality. They show you, and if you believe it or not, it's on you.
I think people turn into zombies when their IQ drops below 62.
Guys, multiple different companies have now started firing thousands of employees to replace them with AI. But it turns out replacing workers with AI actually ends up costing them way more than just paying the workers. So all of these companies fired workers thinking that AI would basically be free. Then the AI company switched to charging by usage, so the more that you use it, the more you pay. Uber actually burned through their entire 2026 AI budget in just 4 months, and then they had to cap every single engineer at $1,500 a month moving forward. And even Nvidia themselves, who are obviously the people making the chips, are now saying that the AI itself costs way more than the employees it replaced. Over 115,000 different tech workers were laid off this year alone, and about 80% of companies cut staff. But the study actually just found zero connection whatsoever between letting people go and actually saving money. So that tracks. And obviously, this is just going to continue to get worse because there is over $6 million bet on Kalshi right now for what the best AI will be by the end of 2026. They're firing thousands of humans to be able to save money, but the robots are actually a little bit more expensive.
AI is going to literally take over everything at this point. Schools, jobs, everything.
How would you know you were pregnant before pregnancy tests existed? In ancient Greece, you'd place an onion in your vajayjay overnight. If your breath smelled like onions in the morning, you were pregnant because a pregnancy would block the onion smell from reaching your mouth. Ancient Egyptians had women urinate on bags of barley and wheat seeds. If the seeds sprouted, pregnant. Europe, 16th and 17th centuries. Euromancers or piss prophets examined women's urine. They judged pregnancy by the smell, color, and appearance of the urine. In 1927, scientists discovered that pregnancy hormones could be detected in mice by repeatedly injecting them with the woman's urine. Days later, the animals were dissected. If their ovaries had changed, then the test was positive. Then came the rabbit test, same idea, but with rabbits. Whether you were pregnant or not, the animal still died. 1940s and 50s, scientists moved on to frogs. But unlike rabbits, the frogs survived, so they could be used for testing over and over. 1960s, labs made tests that detected HCG directly in urine, but you still had to wait weeks for the lab results. Then a woman graphic designer named Margaret Crane had an idea. The same lab test could be done at home, so she built the first prototype in 1967 and received a patent in 1968. In 1971, Canada started selling them. 1972, Dr. Judith Vitakaitis and some dude developed a quicker HCG test, and those were finally rolled out in the US in 1978. Centuries of onions and dead rabbits solved by women. Thank you.
Bible verses that make me scared of the ocean. This is like a subreddit to my terrifying ocean series. There's so many verses in the Bible that are gonna make you not want to ever dip your toesies in the ocean. Like, I can't. Let's just dive right into it. Number 1, Isaiah 27:1. The Lord will punish Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, the twisting serpent. He will slay the monster of the sea. This is proving. Okay, y'all, wait, but here's the question. A lot of y'all are saying, and maybe I haven't read this part in the Bible where you guys are saying that God took out the Leviathan, like the Leviathan's dead. Then the other half of y'all are saying that there were 2 Leviathans. Some people translate it as having 2 heads, and other people translate it as there were 2. God took out the female so it couldn't reproduce, but there is a Leviathan still in the sea to come out in the end times. Am I understanding this right? Please correct me if I'm wrong. I want to be wrong, because understanding that the Mariana Trench, I say this every single time, the Mariana Trench is so deep that if Mount Everest was in the water, it would still be a mile from the tip of Mount Everest to the surface. So that being said, there's so much room for a little levy to be at the bottom, just, swimming around. Next one. This one is so simple, but if you think about it, it's so not simple. Back to the beginning, Genesis 1:2 says, darkness was over the surface of the deep. So you're telling me before anything existed, it was water. There was water there, because the Bible says there's waters above and waters below. So this is exactly why, listen, call me crazy, call me tinfoil, but have y'all seen like a rocket ship in the sky? It literally looks like it's underwater. I believe that space is the ocean and the ocean is space. Come for me if you want. Let's keep going. This one, a lot of people probably wouldn't even find it terrifying, but Jonah 2:5-6. The engulfing waters threatened me. The deep surrounded me. To the roots of the mountains, I sank down. So we really have to think about like what Jonah actually went through. Obviously, we know he was swallowed up, stayed in the belly of a fish. Can you actually freaking imagine falling into the deep sea and then getting swallowed? Like, we don't talk about that enough. Okay, he gets out, you know, he does God's will at the end of the day, as he should. However, we don't talk about how we got there. Am I the only one that like gets shivers from that? Like, that's only 3. There are plenty more, but listen, y'all, as always, I'm gonna ask you, make sure you like and comment, but do you want a part 2? Do you like, do you really?
People think it's talent, then they think it's hustle. Both lies. The door only opens when you prove you're broken, like they are. Raid Club is real. Once you're in, you're owned. You have to keep saying yes when they bring someone new. You don't get to retire from it. The further up you go, the more forbidden it becomes. The taboos get more extreme. When I was young, I was up for anything, any gender, any age. I was physical. I saw it as a challenge, a rite of passage. Proof that I belonged in the big leagues. The club loved that. They fast-tracked me. Doors opened, roles I never auditioned for, connections that made me untouchable. I told myself it was rock and roll, that everyone powerful did it, that it was just how the game worked. I was wrong. I see it differently now. What I thought was freedom was just the first set of chains.
So this video is going viral right now on Twitter. This dude is showing a crow bills, money, and then when they touch the bill, he gives them food. He's training them to bring him money, because this is why crows, I don't know if you heard about this, but crows, man, they're the smartest freaking bird out there. They can remember your face. They can tell their family members and describe the looks of a person to another crow without seeing you. Like, they'll see you, remember in their head, and they can explain to describe it to another crow. It's freaking insane. So love these crows, man. Now, apparently it is illegal to have a crow as a pet. Did you know that? Oh, you can have all kinds of birds. You can have a freaking toucan, a freaking cockatoo, a cock-a-doodle-doo, all kinds of birds. You cannot have a crow as a pet. So, is it because they're advanced beings and their brains are, you know, maybe you can communicate with them telepathically? I know people laugh at telepathy. I mean, dude, it's the language, the way in which our souls communicate. It's telepathically. That's the original speech, was telepathy. So come on, man. I mean, anything's possible. Anyway, let me know your thoughts below. Maybe we'll do a deep dive on crows. Comment for more and follow for part 2. And by the way, don't be feeding birds freaking synthetic crap. Like, this guy looks like he's just giving them sunflowers or something. That's fine. But you don't want to give birds white bread and freaking all these Tostitos and stuff. You see people feeding ducks. Don't feed them these toxic foods. And also, you might not want to eat those toxic foods either because, well, they're toxic and they affect your DNA. And we have all these videos on the exposure of what's happening in our food system. It's absolutely shocking. Today,
the worshippers of Zeus and the polytheists, they formed the secret societies, which eventually became the Masons, you know, the worship of Baal. Even Epstein's family was into the worship of Baal. So these guys, they've been trying to recreate dominion. God is saying that he will allow it. He will allow a final clicking together of this Frankenstein that has a final flare-up just before it gets extinguished, actually.
Welcome back to Blurry Creatures. We have a monster of an episode today with the incomparable Ali Sadiatan. We're talking about Iran. We're talking about the Prince of Persia. We're talking about divine council, principalities, and how that all works with what's going on geopolitically right now. And this massive episode is for Blurry Creatures members only. And if you're interested in becoming a member, check out blurrycreatures.com/members. You'll get this episode plus a back catalog of more than 100 other episodes just for our members. In addition to that, you get ad-free main feed episodes. You're going to get early access to tickets. So BlurryCon, Israel, Peru, these trips that we have done and these conferences that we are doing are all going to end up in our member space first. Check it out. The water's warm. blurrycreatures.com/members. All right, let's go back to Persia, the Prince of Persia. Let's get Ali on the show.
This week, a hacktivist leaked the membership of Dialogue, a secret invitation-only society Peter Thiel founded in 2006, with a roster that reportedly includes a sitting Treasury Secretary, senators, and military and intelligence officials. Have you looked into this at all, and what's your take?
My general instinct on Peter Thiel is
No. He appears in the Epstein files so much after lying to Joe Rogan and saying, like, help me with some math stuff. He also has an island, by the way, and he has his house on it. And he got to an age where he realized that, like, he needed somewhere to dump his wealth, so he decided to have a kid. Once his son was born, they all were there on the island, and Peter Thiel is building a house next door for the nannies to raise the child. When they brought the child around the table at his house, the servants were, like, presenting the child, and Peter was just sort of, like, looking like, yes, yeah, there he is, or whatever, and it was, like, very strange and detached. It's not a guy that I want in authority to make any decisions whatsoever.
Spain and Argentina is in the finals. Okay. You guys ready for this? Get this. It's happened again.
What are we talking about?
It's happening again. Watch this. So can anybody tell me why?
Tell me why.
I was waiting on it.
Why is there a tweet from 2021 saying Argentina just beat Spain in the 2026 World Cup 3-2?
What? How?
They did it again. I don't know what's going on
X is a fucking time traveler social media.
I don't know what's going on.
How many times?
Yes.
Somebody got the almanac.
Isn't that weird? If that is true, because this happened with the Super Bowl. This happened with a few times with the Super Bowl, actually, to where they predicted the Super Bowl winner. People are saying, is it edited? So here's the thing about X. For one, that feature wasn't available back then. This is 2021. Two, there's something called the Wayback Machine. So you can check back on that page to see if they have different tweets and whatnot.
Super facts.
So you can't do any of the sorts, because I've checked it before on those other bets with the Super Bowl.
So you checked the Wayback Machine and it was there. Man, get the fuck out.
It was a real tweet and there was no other tweets. It was just that tweet.
Go see for yourself. Wayback Machine. Go see for yourself.
Go to the Wayback Machine and you can see what happened back then on that site, because everything has a digital footprint. So let's see who this guy is, because I don't get it. Like, how? And these just happened. Like, these games just happened. And this person joined March of 2017.
In the UK.
In the UK.
What else did they tweet? Yo, look what he just posted 11 minutes ago.
There he is. And then a goat. What is that?
Yo, he's saying, like, I called it, basically.
Yeah, I know.
Because they're saying that means time.
Yeah, Project Looking Glass. That could be it. So Project Looking Glass, everybody wants to know what Project Looking Glass is, it's essentially, they have this technology allegedly to where they can peer into the future. I think there is some type of time travel.
If there is, I mean, which I think there is, they're all on X.
They have
too many times.
It's too many times.
How did they just be like gravitating towards X?
I mean, Elon.
Think about it. Why did he want X so bad?
He paid well over price too. I thought that was weird.
It's not time travel. It's Freemasons planning ahead. They're always decades ahead.
Guys, scientists have just found that the San Andreas fault line is under the most pressure that it's ever been in, and it is now lined up with a second fault line right next to LA that could rip open at the exact same time. So they actually built a model of the last 1,000 years of earthquakes on this fault line, and the stress on it right now is about a quarter higher than the worst it's ever been. Okay. They're also saying that there's one spot right near LA where the San Andreas and a second fault line called the San Jacinto basically meet, and scientists are calling it an earthquake gate. So that's cool. They're saying that whenever both fault lines are stressed to the same level, that gate can open and let a rupture jump from one fault line straight onto the other.
New this morning, researchers in Hawaii say 2 of California's fault lines have hit or gone beyond their highest stress levels in the past 1,000 years.
So obviously we see the problem. But happening right now, they're saying that both fault lines are loaded to almost the exact same point, so they could rip together or even all at once across 3 different branches. The last big one that happened in 1857 tore over 200 miles, but it stopped right at that gate. This time, if it were to happen again, the area it would hit is packed with millions of people. The one thing that scientists cannot tell us right now is when, because earthquakes can still not be predicted.
The new Epstein files prove that morally depraved Satanists run this world. The first shocking piece of evidence is the name of Epstein's bank account, which goes by the name Baal, the demon that the Bible mentions that demanded human sacrifice. The next document shows that Epstein was receiving torture videos from a redacted contact. We also see that Epstein had a baby-making ranch in New Mexico, where women not of age were used as human incubators, with one of the victims writing about it in detail in her diary. But if you think that's evil, it gets even worse. George H.W. Bush, the 45th 21st president of the United States, was also implicated after forcing himself on a male victim and proceeding to ritualistically sacrifice him by cutting off his feet, as well as babies being dismembered with their intestines being removed and them eating the feces from their intestines. Prince Andrew also tortured a victim and proceeded to have the victim unalived right after, with even photo evidence of the night that it happened. Jay-Z was also implicated after being present during an abduction of a victim, where the victim was assaulted by Harvey Weinstein while Jay-Z watched it happen. God is exposing all of these wicked people in this hour to shatter the idols that people have created out of popular figures who are some of the most morally satanic, depraved people to ever exist. Jesus tells us in Luke 8:17, "For nothing is secret that will not be revealed, nor anything hidden that will not be known and come to light." It seems like God's judgment is finally coming to these people where everything hidden is coming to light.
You know the Lord.
Yep, everything comes to light. They have to choose Jesus now or pay the consequences.
Or of Mount Shasta. No. Lost civilization of Lemuria claims that there's a mythical continent escaped before the civilization sank in a great flood.
Whoa.
They built a vast underground city beneath Mount Shasta
Whoa.
called Telos.
Whoa.
The inhabitants are said to be highly advanced spiritually and technologically, 6 to 7 feet tall, possessing psychic abilities. Some believers claim that they've encountered them hiking these trails.
Oh my word.
Mount Shasta acts as a portal between dimensions, seeing glowing figures, unusual dreams after visiting. It goes back to the Count of Saint-Germain.
Yes, sir.
It was in 1930. There was this man decided to go for a hike up Mount Shasta. This mysterious figure walks up to him, tells him, "My name is Saint-Germain."
Oh boy.
Proceeds to give him water and then sits him down for like hours.
Wow.
And teaches him this like weird, spooky stuff. And so he goes back and he writes this book. And this movement is called the I Am movement, which gave birth to the New Age movement. Very opposed to Christianity kind of stuff. Basically, you're professing to be like God. It talks about America's purpose. It's our goal to usher in America into the golden age. I don't know if you caught this at all, but that's Trump's whole thing for this new, I'm going to usher America into the golden age. And I'm like, dude, cool.
Taylor was moving around like she owned the darkness, guys. And, she's literally Anton LaVey's daughter, so it makes sense.
What?
Right? She kept drinking her red champagne the whole time. That's what she called the adrenochrome. Like, fresh stuff. Warm. They were harvesting it right there. She says it's the only thing worth drinking anymore. The kids, they were the main source. Their fear made it stronger. They were like feeding the children to Moloch, guys. The little ones got put into the bronze arms and slid right into the fire while everyone chanted. Their screams were like part of the ritual or something. The blood that came out was collected super fast. Pure adrenochrome for the VIPs. Taylor was sipping it straight from the chalice, eyes all rolled back, talking in one of those creepy languages her dad used. She kept saying the kids were the sweetest keys to open the gates. It's so messed up.
Wow. All right, folks. Thank you for staying till the end. I hope you like my lineup. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that bell notification so you won't miss my next video. Have an awesome day. Always. God bless.